You can't go off grid without money. And I've seen so many people believe that they can do this without money. I have a full time job. I've had a full time job since when I got my first piece of land. Um, and I've had to do some clever money management as well. I've had to invest. I've had to work my way up to the piece of land that I'm at now. And I may continue to work up from here. I'm not 100%. I'm kind of, some part of me feels like I've arrived here, and some part of me feels like there's a next step. And in the past, I had kind of always felt like I had arrived and like this was where I was going to be. But then there was always that little voice in my head that said, maybe you could go a little bit farther and do a little bit better. But that is kind of the end of the discussion, and what I want to say. The beginning is that it took me working full time and investing my resources to get to where I am today. It was not something that happened instantly overnight. I had to save money, I had to put in effort, and I've had to work constantly. I've hardly gotten to enjoy the time that I have out on the land. Until maybe very recently, I finally get to lay in the hammock and I finally get to have days where I relax. But I still work full time, and I'm still gonna work full time for a while. And now, at this point, it's time to start managing money and trying to make my money work for me. And I'm realizing that some of that is where I'm at now. I could be paying $1,000 a month in rent. Instead, I'm paying about 310. Maybe 400 if you include all the utility costs of, I have to haul water right now, things like that. Maybe about 400 a month. But I, have invested every penny I've had. In fact, I've gone beyond every penny I've had, and now I have a little bit of debt. So I have debt to pay off, and that debt is that $400 a month. Um, but you know, I would not be here without having worked and invested and, basically worked constantly for several years. I mean, probably a good 10 years now. I've been trying and trying and trying and trying and scrambling to get to this point. Um, and so this isn't something that happens for free, and it's not something where you get instant gratification. You have to work towards it. I had to work to get access to land. I had to work to earn the money to set up a structure that I could live in and be comfortable. And you have to be willing to kind of make compromises and be frugal. I think that's a big thing too. Like, we use about 250 gallons of water a month. The average American household uses about 50 gallons a day. I think maybe it was 250. I don't remember. I think the average no, I think it's like the average American shower is 50 gallons or something like that. It's a huge amount of water. We use 9 gallons a month or a day. So our water consumption is tiny. And our electricity consumption is tiny. We turn off anytime there's a light on and you're not in that space, you turn off the light. Anytime that you know, you have to plan certain activities. Like last night, I made a mistake. I ran the blender at night, and you know what that resulted in was I was out of power until about an hour ago. Um, I had some electricity stored in the batteries, but you don't want to draw your batteries all the way down to where they're completely empty because that's bad for them. Even the lithium batteries, you don't want to draw below a certain point. I'm using lead acid because it was affordable at the time. That's also a poor investment. You invest in lead acid, you're going to be investing in lead acid again in less than a year. Every year, you're going to have to buy new lead acid batteries. So it's all about what you're willing to invest to make your life better in the long run. And land, you might be able to find a cheap piece of land, but it's cheap for a reason. It's cheap because there's no water. It's cheap because it's polluted. It's cheap because it's in the middle of nowhere. I had to work to get to the point where I have a piece of land where I can commute to work if I need to, and where I can work from home because the internet's so good here. I didn't have that before, and I had to work through several pieces of land where I couldn't get to this point. Um, and also like my neighbors here so far, fingers crossed, I have never had problems with my neighbors, creating a situation where my place is unlivable. Sometimes there are conflicts that arise and drama, but nothing here has been so major that I couldn't continue to live here. And overall, last night we left our door open. We just, left the door open. All that was open was all that was closed was the screen door, and that was totally okay. I couldn't do that in any of the past places I've lived. Every other place I've lived, someone would come into the house and steal things while you're sleeping, or they would, steal from outside your home. Um, or I'd have to build a shed to store things, to hide them and lock them up, just so that I could live without worrying about people stealing my stuff when I'm not here. That's not the case here, and it took a while to get to this point. Um, I remember how I got the down payment for this, and I'm on a real estate contract. I don't recommend a real estate contract unless you really know what you're doing, but I'm on a real estate contract, and to get the down payment for this, I signed the contract and I told them I need a little bit of time to come up with the down payment. So I sold another piece of land that I bought using money that I worked for, and like little bits that I saved. I had bought that piece of land and I really liked that place. I didn't want to sell it, but I sold it, and I used that plus about 2 months of not really eating much, not really buying anything frivolous, being very careful with money. Um, Added all that together, and that was the down payment for this piece of land. So it wasn't exactly like easy. It wasn't. What didn't take forever, but the money I saved for that first piece of land, it took 4 to 6 months. The money I saved for this piece of land took a couple months. So at the end of all of it, and before that, I had sold other things to get that money together. I had sold a car. I had sold computers, and it took me money to get those things, and it took effort to get those things. So you save up all the effort it took me. It took me probably about a year just to get the down payment for this piece of land. Plus the survey. The survey I've got some credit card debt for, which is not how you want to do things. So I've got debt on the land. I've got some debt for the survey. This was a lot. I mean, this was a real stretch. This was me going over what I had, and I had to have some credit already built up in order to take that debt, in order to be trusted to the extent where I could take that debt. So none of this was free. Now, there is a caveat. I think you could find a community that is, based on barter, and if you can get into that community by proving yourself and doing, putting forth effort for others, you might be able to take a skill where you had trouble making money on it out in the world, and use that basically as your asset that you provide to the community, and they might give you some of what you need, but you're still, honestly, you're going to want money, because there are times when you'll want things that they cannot provide to you. So in a capitalist world, I don't think there's any full escape from money. I think a lot of people want there to be an escape from money, and I think if the whole world transitioned away from capitalism, first of all, you wouldn't have your own homestead. If the whole world transitioned away from capitalism, we would all be sharing the land, which honestly, with the amount of energy, like, I'm very willing to share my land, but with the amount of energy that I put into it, I don't really think it's fair to me to tell me I can't have it now because the world is changing. I put so much energy into this to make this happen, and I mean working 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for years, to make this really happen and to get to the point where I could have this. I would be pretty disappointed. I think I'd probably lose all my motivation if it was just suddenly taken away one day. I mean, that if you want to destroy a person, take away all the fruits of their labor, you know. So, and you wouldn't be able to have your own homestead. You wouldn't be able to do your American dream thing if we suddenly transitioned out of capitalism completely. Now, I think a little bit of socialism, sprinkle a little bit of it on, I think that's okay. I'm willing to pitch in for emergency services, for a little bit of social welfare so that people are okay if they have a financial emergency. But I think, overall, we are capitalist in the world for a reason, and things are the way they are somewhat for a reason. People have decided that this is the best way to make the world work so that you get some reward for your effort. We're also, I think, in a time where there's a disdain for effort. People hate effort. They think the effort is bad. The more effort you put in, the worse off you are. But I disagree. I mean, I think if you put your effort in the right direction, you can get somewhere that you might want to be. Like here, I mean, look behind me. This is great. This is beautiful. This is paradise. And I'm in paradise mentally, because I worked to get there. And I'm not done yet by any stretch of the imagination. I'm 10% of the way there right now, and this is that. So I know that I have more capability. I believe in myself. I know I can go farther than this. And I think that's a lot. You have to believe you can get there. Because I started with nothing. In the beginning, I lived in a hole in the ground that somebody else dug and that they passed to me so that I would have shelter. I've lived in rotten RVs that leaked all the time. I've lived in tents in the desert where it's hot. I have been through the ringer. I started out with nothing, and it's totally possible to get somewhere starting from nothing. So I think that's kind of the message I want to promote, is that it does take energy and it does take money to get this, but it's not impossible for anyone to get this, especially if you're in a first world country. You have those opportunities. There's nothing stopping you. If you're in a economically challenged or developing country, you have a little bit more of a challenge in front of you. In fact, you have a lot more of a challenge in front of you. But I think so many Americans believe they can't do it. Like, I can't get there. I can't have what you have. This is $400 a month. It cost me $7,000 for a down payment. Everything in total, I would say total investment 10K for this whole thing. You can do this. It's totally within your means. If we include the vehicle, maybe 15K. Had to save that up. Had to work. Still have debt. I owe money on the vehicle, which I have to pay off. I owe money on the land, which I have to pay off. It's all little tiny itty bitty debts my total debt for everything I own is like less than most people's car payment. But I still owe money for it, and I still have to work to earn that money. And the plan is pay all of that off, get it to where I owe nothing on anything, and then while I'm paying it off, I'm investing, so I have a little bit more flow of cash and resources. You have to be smart about using what you have. You can't just say, I can't do it. I'm not capable. I don't have anything. I don't have money. Because I started with nothing. And I'm physically not that capable. I have a destroyed back. I've had 3 back surgeries. They were expensive. I've had a lot of disadvantages in my life. But I've still gotten to this point because the opportunity was available. I had to see it in that moment, that 1 millisecond that it was available, and grab it before it disappeared. And I had to be patient to wait for it. I think I have 2 acres of land in this subdivision, and I had to wait about 2 years to find this specific piece of land. And it wasn't exactly what I wanted, and I questioned myself when I bought it, but I have no question now. I am so happy that I have this. It took years to get this, and it took looking at other pieces. There are other pieces of land in this subdivision you can't even get to. With a Jeep, you can't even drive to them. There's no access. There's no way. You'd have to take a bulldozer and spend, a month bulldozing your way to these pieces of land. And you still have to pay for them. It's not like they're free. You couldn't even hike to them. That's how hard some of them are to get to. The trees are so thick, the rocks are so tall, you can hardly get to them. And it's insane. And then getting the resources there that you need, because you need water to live, right? You need, in the modern world, you probably need your cell phone or some form of internet connection so that you can, get jobs and make money. And, if you get a rattlesnake bite, you can look up the nearest hospital. So some of these pieces of land in this subdivision, man, they're worthless. But eventually I did find this place, and it cost more than the other places, but I found what I wanted. So it's totally possible to get what you want, but it takes patience and hard work and perseverance. And these are all things you hear, and you're probably thinking this is all cliche, but it's true. And just take the opportunities you have, be patient, work hard, work to advance yourself, advance your knowledge of whatever you do to make money, get better at it, engage in your side hustles. Eventually you will get what you want, and you will enjoy it. And then, set a goal you can't achieve. I think, that goal, if you've got the goal to go off grid, if you've got the goal to have your own little homestead, you will get there if you try hard enough. And even if you don't, it's an unachievable goal. It's a goal that will give you purpose. And you need purpose to have motivation. There's a cat here. The cat has arrived. Mr. Cat, monkey. Um, but you will arrive at something because you used that unachievable goal to give you purpose, to give you energy to do things. If without a goal, there's no point to life. There's nothing to do. If you're just drifting through life, just consuming, what do you really do? Like, why are you here? What's the purpose? I think everybody needs some purpose. Life itself is meaningless, but you can find purpose in a goal in your individual life. But I think that's what I'll leave it with, because I think I really want that to stick. Goals give you purpose. Purpose gives you motivation. Motivation means your life will get better, even if it's just tiny incremental improvements. If you are patient and you have resolve and perseverance and willpower, your life will get better. But thank you for watching. I know my videos change context every day, every time I make one, but that's part of the beauty of it, right? That's like why you're here. But have a great day. Thank you for watching, and go out and do something.